Hello, I am Jesus Castillo from rubyguides.com, and in this video you are going to learn about the Rails asset pipeline. The Rails asset pipeline. Exactly what is it, why is it useful, and how you can use it to benefit you in your Ruby on Rails projects. So let's do that. By the way, before we get started, make sure to check out my website rubyguides.com and get a copy of my Ruby book so you can improve your Ruby skills. Now for the topic of this video, I have this little outline here with some notes, and I have some examples, some code examples, so you can understand this topic. So Rails asset pipeline, what is it? Well, the asset pipeline is a system for managing your static assets. Okay, so you probably heard asset pipeline this, asset pipeline that. If you read anything about Rails, the topic of asset pipeline comes up. So what is it? Is a system built into Rails to help you manage static assets. Now, what's a static asset? Well, glad you ask because I have the answer. A static asset is a file like an image, a CSS file, or a JavaScript file, right? So examples include application.css, application.js, an image that you might have like logo.png. It doesn't have to be these names, but these are typical names that you might find in a Rails application, right? So these are static assets, and the asset pipeline, its job is to manage these assets. And this has a number of benefits over just hard coding the paths or the URLs to these assets yourself. So what are those benefits? Well, good question. The benefits are many. In this case, I have three of them. Okay, and we will show you, you will see one example for each of those examples. Okay, so the first benefit of using the Rails asset pipeline is that it gives you minification. So minification means making smaller, right? What are we making smaller? We are making smaller the assets, the asset files, right? So we're making them smaller. That's called minification. Then concatenation. What's concatenation? Well, concatenation is taking two things, for example, and putting them together, right? So if you have two CSS files, if we put them, we concatenate them into one file, that's going to be better. Why? Because it's one less request that the user has to make to your server, right? So imagine that you have 100 CSS files. What that means is that the user has to send 100 individual requests to your application to fetch those files. So with concatenation, this takes all of these files and puts them into one file, right? That combined with minification, which is making smaller, is compression. Minification is like file compression, right? This makes your files smaller. This combines the files into one file. What's that good for? It's good for performance, right? So that's one of the biggest benefits of the Rails asset pipeline. And all of this happens automatically for you. And we're going to see an example so you can see how this is happening exactly. So the next benefit is that you don't have to hardcode these file paths, right? So Rails gives you, as part of the Rails asset pipeline, it gives you some helper methods that you can use. So the only thing that you need to know is the name of the file and not the path. So the path might be something like A, B, C, and then the name of the file like logo.png. This is the path, right? You don't need to know that because the asset pipeline managers knows the paths for you. The only thing that you need to do is to know the name of the file, and then you say asset pipeline or Rails, I want this file, and Rails will know where this file is if you follow the conventions and if you follow the conventions of the asset pipeline, which we will see in a moment. So the last benefit, and also a very important benefit, is that you can transform SAS files into CSS files, right? So what is a SAS file? Well, a SAS file is a file that ends with this file extension, SCSS. And what this is an extended version of CSS. So CSS is used for style sheets, right? For saying, oh, I want this header to be blue. I want this thing to be font size 20 or margin, padding. All of these things are CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. But with SAS, you get extended CSS. So that's CSS with extra features like variables. The reason we need this transformation, which the asset pipeline is doing for you, is because the browser like Chrome, Firefox, etc., Safari, they don't understand this format, but they understand CSS. And again, the Rails pipeline does this automatically for you. So it's doing all of these things for you. And that's just one part of Rails. So imagine and be thankful for all of the hard work that Rails is doing for you. Now, let's see these examples to see how these features work exactly. So the first example, we're going to see the difference between the assets in production and development. Okay, so right here I have Rails server, and we're going to go post, and there it is. That's Rails 5.2, and then I have some users. So there it is, and if I do Ctrl U or right click view page source, we can see the source code, the HTML source code for this page, and this includes all of the assets, right? So remember, we're talking about static assets, which include files like those. This CSS file, this JavaScript file, right? Now, as you can see, we have a lot of files in here. I think this is like about 10 files, right? But no, look what happens when I enable the full asset pipeline as it would be in production. So if I stop the server, I open an editor, I'm going to look for the development environment file, right? And here I'm going to search for asset. I'm going to change this line that says config assets debug. Okay, this file, this configuration variable, I'm going to change this to false, right? So it's true by default in development, but it's false in production. So if I save this and then I reload my server. And by the way, this is a shortcut that I have, which means Rails server. Okay. Now if I come here, I reload the page, ta-da! We went, you see what happened? We went from 10 different files to just 2. And this is like a very simple example application. Imagine in a very big production app, you might have hundreds of files. But the asset pipeline does this thing where it minifies and concatenates all of the files just into one CSS file and one JavaScript file. So that's what the asset pipeline is doing for you. And you saw it, how it works. So let me undo this. And let's take a look at another quick example right here. We're almost done, but I hope you're enjoying this and taking notes, because this is going to help you really understand Rails and appreciate all of the work that Rails is doing for you. So let me now go to a Rails console. So RC for me means a Rails console. You have to type Rails console if you don't have some alias defined, okay? And right here we can interact, work with the Rails application, and we can ask it for the style sheet path, right? And there it goes, we get the path, right? Notice that we don't need the extension, because Rails already knows that a style sheet is CSS format, right? So you can use this method in your views to get the file path, or you can also use, which is a lot more common, to use a style sheet URL, link tag, style sheet link tag, and then you get the actual HTML. So that's what you might see in your layouts, in your application layout. If you open your application layout in your Rails application, you're going to find this. In fact, let's do that right now. We're going to layouts. As you can see, there it is, right? So this is very important. For example, if you want to use like a template, a lot of people often ask, how would I use this template that I download from some template site, this HTML template? Well, the problem that you're going to have is that the template is probably not built for Rails, so it's not going to have these things, right? And you need to use this so you can actually get your JavaScript code and your CSS code and your meta tags and all of this. That's important. All right, so that's that. The last example is about the file structure for app assets. So all of these files go under a folder named app assets, and this is where you need to put all of your files if you want to follow the convention. There are a few folders. One is images, and of course that's where your images go. JavaScripts, notice this in plural, it's JavaScripts, not JavaScript. So some beginners, I've seen that they create a new folder and they name it JavaScript. But that's not the right way to do it. You have to follow the convention, which means use what's already in there, right? So put your JavaScript code in your JavaScripts folder. So that's again under app assets, JavaScripts, app assets, images, and app assets style sheets, also in plural. And here notice that we have both CSS files and .s CSS files which is this extended CSS format that I explained before, right? And now to use the asset pipeline, that's our last node, last point right here. You use these methods: image tag, style sheet, link path, JavaScript path. You use the folders that we just see here, right? And finally, on these folders, there are some special files, we could say. And these special files are application.js and application.css. So if we open one of these up, you will see these 2 lines. So these 2 lines, they might look like comments, but they are not comments, okay? They actually mean something. They are called directives, okay? So these are special lines for the asset pipeline, and they have a special meaning. So the special meaning for require itself is that it will require the code that you put inside this file. So this is a CSS file, right? So I can write some CSS in here if I want to, right? Maybe I want font size to be 20 pixels. So require self means that this code is going to be part of application.css, right? The concatenated minified file. And require tree with a dot, the dot means current file, right? Current file. And require tree means require all of the files into this file, right? So this, the concatenation process, is going to find all of the files inside assets style sheets and then put them together into application.css. So these 2 lines make that happen. So that's it. That's the end of this video. I hope you learned about the Rails asset pipeline. Please click the like button for me so I know that you like this video and so more people can find it and benefit from this knowledge. Now, if you want to keep learning, watch more of my videos now. I have over 100 videos that you can watch on this video. In the channel, okay? Also, visit my website, rubyguides.com, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot for watching. I will see you in the next video.